Hey guys, Eric with Barris Engineering, and today we're going to be installing our end plates on our standard front splitter. We heard what you guys were saying when we were developing the high downforce end plates, and we created a smaller but similar in aesthetic and performance characteristic end plate for the standard front splitter. These are printed out of carbon nylon. They're strong, rigid, and they feature some really nice venting, which allows that high pressure air to vent out, but still keeps the high pressure on the front splitter. Overall, it was a net efficient increase to the splitter kit. So it's a neat little add-on that if you like the looks and you want a little bit more front downforce, it's a great addition for you guys. These install with drilling a few holes in the bumper and should be done in under an hour. Let's get to the install.
All right, kit components for your standard Supra splitter end plates. You're gonna receive two nicely printed, beautifully printed actually, end plates and a hardware bag. All right, tools we need to install our standard splitter end plates on the Toyota Supra. We're gonna want a countersinking bit, a 5/32 drill bit, an 1/8 inch drill bit for a pilot hole is also not a bad idea. But you don't necessarily need it, the material is pretty soft. So 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench or socket. I've got these channel locks, but any pliers will work in case you need to set the nuts into the end plate itself, just in case you need some extra leverage. Then of course we'll need a drill. All right, so before we get started, it's recommended that well, it's easier if you take the splitter off. Or do it while you're installing the splitter or before you install the splitter. Basically, you know, you're gonna set this onto the edge of the splitter and you're gonna mark your holes out and then you're gonna drill it. I'll go through that in a minute. But basically what I'm gonna do here is show you how I did it on the car. A lot of you guys may have the splitter already installed and may not wanna take the splitter off, but again, highly recommended that you take the splitter off or do it while you're installing the splitter. So, do as I say, maybe not do as I do. So let's get right into it. All right, working on the ground here today. First step first, jack the car up and support it safely. Make sure you got jack stands underneath the car. Essentially what I was saying earlier is we're just going to set this on the splitter and mark the 3 holes, drill them, countersink the bottoms, and then bolt this up to the splitter. It's as simple as that. Unless the splitter is already on the car. So because we are borrowing a customer car today, we're not gonna drop the splitter, we're gonna do it on the car. If you're gonna do it on the car, after everything's already installed, you need both end plates to do the installation process on each side. That's not to say you're gonna be bolting both sides up, but basically when we mark them, we're only gonna drill the first 2 and bolt the opposite side end plate up from the bottom and then use the bottom mounted template or end plate at this point as the template to mark the rearmost or 3rd bolt hole, and then we'll drill that from the bottom up. So let's get to it. I've got this lined up with the edge of the splitter here and the rear edge of the splitter here. What we're going to do is keep that lined up. And we're going to use a paint marker or a regular marker. You can use a scribe. I recommend something high visibility like a yellow paint marker. And just going to make like a little dot. All right, so first we need to kind of get our nylock nuts pressed into the end plate. You'll notice there is, hopefully this will show it. Well, there's a hex here, but there's 3 of them. Please focus. There, you can see I have 2 of the nuts pressed in already, and then obviously this back one here is not. So if you can't get them in just by dropping them, they might be a little bit of an interference fit. All we're gonna do is, and this one is actually kind of falling in by itself, but all you need to do is grab some pliers, just like that, and squeeze. And it didn't really go in that much because it fell in most of the way, but you get the point. Okay, so we have these two holes for these two holes marked, the front two holes. Real quick tidbit, if this forms kind of a right angle in the back, if this isn't lining up correctly and you're hitting the bumper, go ahead and loosen up, if the splitter's already on the car, go ahead and loosen up the rearmost bolt for the splitter mount, and you should be able to move the this edge of the bumper in. You should only need to move it like about 1/8 of an inch. But I'm double checking my marks. They're good. So I'm gonna drill this hole. I'm using a super extra long 1/8 inch drill bit. These can be had at McMastercar.com. This is an 1/8 inch bit for my Pilot. And basically this is going to allow me to drill these two holes without hitting the bumper or making contact. Cool, so we have our two pilot holes drilled, and what we're going to do is step them out to a 5/32 hole from the bottom. I'm going to grab the drill bit, be right back. Drill bit acquired. I'm going to find these two holes. Drill them from the bottom up, just like so. Again, that's a 5/32 drill bit we have. And then, as I was saying earlier, we're taking the opposite side end plate. We're going to bolt it up just like this, and that'll let us use the end plate as our drill template in order to mark it, and we'll drill the last hole from the bottom up. So I'm going to take our two 20mm flathead cap screws, and we're going to kind of loosely bolt them up to the end plate. So I grab my Allen wrench. We don't want to go nuts here. We're just trying to get the bolts into the end plate so we know that they're both lined up. Take a paint marker. I'm going to go underneath. Now I'm going to remove the end plate and drill the rear hole out. All right, so off camera, I finished drilling the rear hole. The other thing I did was take a razor blade, just a straight razor blade like this, and run it across the surface of the splitter. And basically what that does is kind of, you'll notice that there'll be some buildup of material and some hairs from the poly weave. Flat razor blade will take them right off. Just make sure it's good and sharp. So I did that. And now for the final step, we need to countersink the holes so that our flathead cap screws are nice and flush with the bottom surface of the splitter. So grab a countersink and go slowly. Just make sure you don't end up with giant beveled holes on the bottom side. So we're going to do that real quick. And you'll notice you're left with these big burrs or hairs, whatever you want to call them. So we'll go ahead and deburr that again. Just like that. And now we're ready for the final installation. If you need to go and do the other side still, and you haven't been doing them at the same time, then you will need to go to the other side and do that first, because like we just showed you, you need both end plates to complete the install for each side. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt these things up with the 20mm flathead cap screws, and we'll see what the final product looks like. All right, bolts acquired. Let's get to bolting this thing up. I recommend starting all of the bolts first, and then going for your final torque. If you notice that the nuts are particularly loose inside of the end plate, don't push up too much. Just kind of start spinning your Allen key or socket and let it start threading in before that, otherwise you'll keep popping out the nut and then you'll just be fighting it the whole time and it's not a lot of fun. As far as torque goes, just bottom these guys out, give them just a little bit, like a quarter turn, and that's it. Always make sure that when you look down to the top, you do see the bolt is actually making contact with the nylon section of the nylock. If it's not, you probably didn't go far enough on the countersink, and so just go back and repeat slowly until you get the right amount of depth. And that's it.
All right, guys, that was the installation for your front splitter end plates on your Toyota Supra. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, be sure, as always, to email us at sales@better-engineering.com. Until next time, we'll see you later.